Hey everyone, Ace of Clay here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another sculpting video. Today we're making a Wendigo. This is by far my most requested sculpture that I have ever made. If you look back on any of my videos, there's at least 10 to 20 people in the comments asking for me to make a Wendigo. So I finally caved and I'm finally doing it. Now, if you're not familiar with a Wendigo, according to Wikipedia, the Wendigo is described as a monster with some characteristics of a human, or as a spirit who has possessed a human being and made them become monstrous. Its influence is said to invoke acts of murder, insatiable greed, cannibalism, and the cultural taboos against such behaviors. Doesn't that sound lovely? So with all that said, if you like creepy weird stuff like me and you want to see me make this guy, then hit like, hit subscribe, and let's get started. First step, armature. I'm just going to take my armature wire here and shape out the Wendigo's legs, torso, and arms. And the arms I will attach as a separate piece with some floral wire. Here we're just making the first leg and the foot, and then the second leg, and then the torso, and then sort of reinforcing everything with that floral wire. And as always, all of the materials and tools that I use in this video are listed in the description box below, along with my affiliate links if you want to purchase anything. Alright, now that we've got the armature wire figured out, it's time to bulk out the torso with some aluminum foil. And once all that foil is on, we want to complete the underlying structure of our sculpture with some Sculpey Ultralight. This creates a great base for me to add my final layer of clay later on. And once everything is covered in some Ultralight, it's time to bake this so everything's nice and hard. And once he's baked and completely cooled down, it's time to apply our final layer of clay. I am using Super Sculpey Original. And I'm just applying the Super Sculpey in these nice even sheets that I got by rolling the clay through my pasta maker on the thickest setting. Now once everything is covered in Super Sculpey, it's time to start the features and details. We're going to start with the toes. I'm just adding these little balls of clay at the end of his foot and blending the back edge in with the top of his foot. I'm just gonna stick those on. And I want this thing to be completely covered in fur, like a fur of varying lengths. I want there to be some long fur, some short fur. So we're starting with the feet, and just to create the longer fur on these, I'm just adding these little teardrop shapes with the pointed end facing outward and blending the top in with the rest of the foot like that. And then using this tool to create the fur texture. And then to create some more interest and dimension on the legs, I'm going to add some long hanging pieces of fur like this. And I feel like this kind of adds to the creepy factor of our Wendigo, and it makes it look a little more like rough and not so perfect looking. Then once all those are on, we're going to start texturing it like the rest of the fur, using this tool again. There's a lot of fur texture in this video. And now it's time to add a piece of fur right there. Blend that in. What'd you think I was gonna say? And we're just finishing off his bottom half. Now for the next step, I want to create some longer fur down the front of his chest. So I'm just adding this snake of clay that I am blending in, and then just creating the shape of fur that I want. I want it to sort of be like, I guess it's called like a ducktail, where the fur meets on either side. And I want that to go down the front and then sort of create this mane around the shoulders. So I'm just doing that here, and then of course some more fur texture. And then you can see that I took the clay off his back just because I want to pre-bake this again so that the front is completely hard, and then go back in and do the back later. If I don't do this and I do the back at the same time as the front, I'm going to keep smashing it, so we're just going to do it in these little stages. And then after adding some more clay for the mane, we're adding some more texture. Now to break up some of that fur, I just want to create some areas where his ribs are exposed. So I'm just shaping out the exposed area with the back of my spoon tool. And then I'm going to press out the space in between each rib with my small ball stylus. This is super easy and super effective if you want to make ribs and not lose your mind. And we're going to repeat this process to create some more exposed ribs on the other side. Okay, now moving back down to the feet, I'm just using my medium ball stylus to create some indents in each of the toes. This is where I will be adding some toenails or claws, whatever you want to call them. And after adding a little bit of bacon bond for reinforcement, I made the claws out of some Sculpting Primo. This is just a stronger clay once it's cured, and it's great for little delicate areas like these. Now we're going to brush the entire surface with clay softener to remove fingerprints and get him ready for another bake. It's looking pretty good. Come on, bake it. And once he's baked and completely cooled down, it's time to start the arms. After positioning the armature wire for the arms, I'm rolling out a snake of clay, cutting a slit down the middle without going all the way through, opening that slit, and then applying it over the wire. This just makes it easier to attach it. And so the arms don't look like spaghetti noodles. I'm just going to give them a little bit of muscle definition by adding some more clay right around the elbow area here, and then we're going to bring out the deltoid a little bit. After finishing the other arm off camera, it's time to start the hands. I'm just shaping out the palm of the hand with a piece of clay, and then I'm going to press wire into that shape to create the fingers. I'm then going to pre-bake these so that I can just sculpt right over them and not worry about them breaking or anything. Here they are after they're baked. It's time to cover all the fingers after trimming them to size and bending them into the position that I would like. And once all the clay is on the fingers, it's time to add some fur. After finishing the other hand off camera, I'm just going in and enhancing them with some more fur, and then adding some fur hanging from the elbows here. Then I'm going to follow this by brushing all of the uncured areas with some clay softener to remove fingerprints, and then bake this again. Then once he's baked and completely cooled down, it's time to do the back, neck, and head. We're going to start by bringing the neck out a little bit with some aluminum foil, Then we're going to start the head. This is just a ball of foil that I covered in clay and inserted a bamboo skewer so that I can hold on to it while I'm sculpting the rest of it. And of course, this is a Wendigo, so the head is going to be a deer skull. So we're just sort of shaping out the snout area and then bringing out that jaw at the bottom here. And I did have to reference a deer skull when I made this. Obviously, I don't just have knowledge of what deer skulls look like. So I just kind of winged it for the most part, and I'm really surprised with how easy it was for me to do just from looking at a picture and how fast it went. Like, I was expecting to spend like a good 2 hours on this because I'm not used to making skulls. And I mean, it's not perfectly anatomically correct or anything, but it gets the point across, and I think it came out pretty good. So I'm just gonna keep going here. Now I'm just bringing out the area around the eye sockets with a little snake of clay and then pressing them out with a ball stylus after I blend the edge in with my spoon tool. There's eye socket number 1. Then on to the next one. Now for the teeth, I'm just going to make these with my Explorer tool and my Wedge Firm Detail tool. Now as a final detail, we're going to finish this thing off with some random cracks here and there. And then I think for the official last step, I poked a hole through the top of the head and inserted a piece of wire to create the future antlers. And I want to pre-bake the skull before I sculpt the antlers, just so that I don't smash the skull while I'm sculpting the antlers. But before we pre-bake it, let's take those fingerprints off with some clay softener. Then once it's baked and completely cooled down, it's time to make those antlers. I'm just shaping out the wire, putting it into the position that I like, and then sort of anchoring it with some more clay there so it doesn't move too much. Then I'm going to cover the wire with some clay, of course. And then I bent out this antler shape from a smaller gauge wire, and I'm just wrapping it around the main antler piece to connect it. And I forgot to do this before I added the clay, so I'm just wrapping it around over the clay, and this actually worked out in my favor because the clay sort of like anchored the wire there a little more and made it a little more structurally sound. So it was a happy mistake, what can I say? Now I'm just covering everything else with more clay, and it's like I never made that mistake. Then to texture the antlers, I'm just going to run my spoon tool along the surface. Now we're going to finish off the head and the neck with some more fur. And then add a nice little mane down the back. Now to finish off the ribs that are on the sides here. Now for some more fur texture until I can't breathe. really need to say what I'm doing right now? I think you know. Then once he's baked and completely cooled down for the final time, it's time for paint. All of the paints that I use in this video are Folk Art brand matte acrylics. And I'm just using some warm white for the skull. Now for the arms, I'm going to go in with some dark brown. And this was a little too reddish for me, so later on I dull it down a little bit. Now for the rest of the fur, I want to do this nice dark grayish brown color, and to create this I used some pure black, warm white, dark brown, and regular brown. And here we're dulling out the arms. Then to create some more dimension on the arms, I am dry brushing some lighter grayish brown on them. Now it's time to bring out all of that fur detail that we made by dry brushing some lighter gray on the surface. And if you're not familiar with dry brushing, I've mentioned it in a couple videos recently, but I'll just say it again. To dry brush, you just want to completely saturate your brush in paint and then wipe off as much of it as possible and then swiftly drag it across the surface. And we're going with this nice dark gray color for the antlers. And I'm going to darken the center of his back and his mane with some pure black. Now I'm just dry brushing some lighter gray on the antlers here, and then creating a black gradient at the tips. And then I created this nice light brown wash for the skull by mixing dark brown with warm white. And then of course watering that down. I'm just brushing it on the surface and wiping off the excess with my fingertips. Then we're gonna paint the very recessed areas of the skull, like the snout and eye sockets, with black. Dry brush a little bit of warm white on the surface, and now we're painting the spaces in between the ribs black. And then I'm dry brushing again a little bit of pure magenta and cobalt blue here and there throughout the body, just to give it some more dimension and all around just make it look a little cooler. Now we're just painting those ribs warm white. Now I'm gonna flick some watered down dark brown on the bottom of the figure to make it look like mud splatters. And I'm using a toothbrush to do this. And he's done! My most requested sculpture is complete. I finally made a Wendigo. Let me know what you think in the comments, and then if you use any of the tips and techniques in this video on your own projects, share them to Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and tag me, Ace of Clay, or hashtag Ace of Clay so I can check them out. And that's a wrap. I really hope you like my Wendigo. I think it came out really cool looking. I'm so happy with this thing. And I was kind of putting him off for a while just because I thought it was going to take me like a ton of time, but I just said, screw it, let's just make it. And I am really glad that I did because I love how it turned out. Let me know how you think I did in the comments. And as always, thank you so much for watching and being here. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And then follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Ace of Clay. I'm also on TikTok at Ace of Clay Official. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.